we're going to do something called factoring by GCF, greatest common factor. The largest number factor that is in common. So look at these two. We're trying to think of a number that goes into these two. So 1 always goes into everything. Next number would be 2. 2 goes into both those, but let's see if there's something bigger. 3 does not go into that. 4 goes into 4, and 4 goes into 12. So my number that goes into both 4 and 12 is 4. 4 goes into both those. And that's the largest. It's the greatest common and shared factor, which is number that goes into both. Next, you look at the x's. And you look, okay, what's the lowest power squared, x squared? So the lowest power is the greatest thing in common, meaning this has an x squared. Since this is x to the fourth, that for sure has x squared, it actually has more. So that's your GCF. This is your GCF. And what we do by factoring, what we're doing here, is we're going to pull out that GCF out of both pieces. And when we pull out the GCF, okay, you pull a 4x squared out of this. So 4x squared times what will give us that? So you're trying to think, okay, what is left over when I pull this out? Well, 4 times 1 gives you 4. And x squared times what gives you x to the fourth? Oh, x squared times x squared. So 4 times 1 is 4, and x squared times x squared is x to the fourth. Now you don't really need that one, but we put it just for knowing it, for making sense of it. All right, now 4x squared times what will give you 12x squared. So 4 times what is 12. By the way, there's a minus here because the minus there. Anyways, 4 times what is 12? 4 times 3 is 12. And then x squared times what is x squared? Oh, nothing. It's just x squared. So that's it. So that is my factored form. When I pull this out, I now have this left over. If I were to FOIL this, distribute, 4x squared times x squared, you get 4x to the fourth. Do 4x squared times negative 3, you get negative 12x squared. Let's do the same thing here. Let's look at these 3 pieces and think about what's my GCF. What goes into 21, 12, and 6? So let's start with 2. 2, that's odd. 2 won't work. 3. 3 goes into all those. So 3 is looking good. So 3 might be it. 4, no, 4 doesn't go into there. 5, no. 6, no, doesn't go into that. 7, but 7 doesn't go into those. Okay, now that I got to 7, 7's bigger than 6. So the highest number you could go into any of them is 6. So the only thing that actually went into all of them besides 1 was 3. So 3 is your GCF, your greatest common factor, the greatest number that goes into all of them. Okay, now look at all the n's. The lowest power on n is just n. That's your GCF. Now we're going to find out when you pull out 3n what's left over. When you pull out the 3n, what is left over? Okay, 3n times what will give you 21n to the third? So 3 times what gives you 21? I think it's 7. Yeah, 3 times 7 is 21. N times what will give you n to the third? That would be n squared. N times n squared is n to the third. Next, this one. 3 times what will give you 12? That's 4. 3 times 4 is 12. And n times what will give you n squared? N times n will give you n squared. And then the last piece, 3 times what will give you negative 6? I think that's a 2. And n times what is n? It's 1, so you don't really need anything. And again, that's a minus because that's a minus. That's a plus because that's a plus. So let's double check. Is 3n times 7n squared 21n to the third? Yeah. Is 3n times 4n 12n to the second? Yep. And is 3n times 2 negative 6n? Yeah, negative 2, negative 6n. So we're good.